didn't just lose half its value, it lost its soul. Once a symbol of rugged freedom and off-road rebellion, the brand is now fighting for survival. In the first half of 2024, Stellantis, Jeep's parent company, watched its shares plunge over 50% and profits slashed in half. Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, household names once beloved by Americans, now saw their market caps evaporate into thin air. Investors were stunned, and critics had no choice but to call it a corporate catastrophe. President Donald Trump declared, "No more bailouts for stupidity," exposing the executive arrogance that fueled the collapse. Meanwhile, angry workers and union leaders took to the streets, and frustrated customers demanded answers. This isn't a random misfortune. It is a self-made disaster crafted from within. Stay tuned as we uncover every layer of this shocking downfall and reveal how it might redefine our automotive future. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about Jeep. The day Stellantis betrayed America. They didn't simply abandon workers. They launched an all-out assault on their own customers. Stellantis made a calculated decision. Forget loyalty, forget affordability, and forget America. Instead, they pivoted hard toward a high-margin, high-risk luxury strategy that priced everyday buyers out of the game. Gone were the days when a Jeep Wrangler was a working man's dream. Now it was a boutique item, dressed up in premium trims and sporting price tags that rivaled German sedans. What used to cost $35,000 was suddenly pushing $60,000 or $70,000, and even more for fully loaded trims. The backlash was swift. Loyalists flooded online forums and dealership reviews, accusing Stellantis of betrayal. "I've driven Jeeps for 30 years, one retired veteran wrote, "but I'm not spending Mercedes money for something that still leaks when it rains." President Trump seized the moment. In a fiery post on social media, he slammed the company for abandoning the American worker and threatened to introduce a new set of tariff penalties for automakers who chase margins and abandon the working class. The public pressure intensified. Even traditional Jeep dealerships began breaking rank. Some started offering steep markdowns just to move units that no one wanted. Others stopped ordering certain trims altogether. The pivot to luxury had alienated Jeep's most faithful buyers and left dealerships stuck with inventory they couldn't sell. That betrayal came with a cost no one could afford, not even the dealerships. But before we talk about the details, subscribe, please. It only takes a sec and it's easy. Thank you. The dealer lots that became graveyards. Jeep dealers are stuck with hundreds of unsellable trucks, and they're bleeding cash every day. Walk onto one of these lots and you'll find a sea of brand new Grand Cherokees and Wagoneers collecting dust in overflow lots. These aren't lemons, they're just too expensive, too flashy, and too disconnected from what buyers actually want. Some lots have started using their used vehicle storage just to hold new trucks. One dealer in Kentucky said it plainly, "We ran out of space to park the mistakes." Every unsold truck racks up interest payments. Each month they sit, the losses mount. Salespeople, many working on commission, are watching their paychecks disappear as traffic slows to a crawl. This isn't just a business problem, it's a psychological one. Morale is in the basement. Veterans of the industry say they've never seen anything like it. "We used to have people lining up for Wranglers," said one dealership manager in Ohio. "Now we can't give them away." In a bold move, some dealerships have written to the White House directly, pleading for federal intervention. Others are seeking state-level relief to avoid bankruptcy. One dealer group even went as far as suspending new orders indefinitely, choosing survival over inventory. Trump listened, though he didn't exactly offer a helping hand. Stellantis executives played with fire and got burned. They ignored every warning, silenced every whistleblower, and bet the company on luxury dreams. Now the empire is crumbling. What looked like ambition has curdled into arrogance. And the dealers, workers, and investors are the ones paying the price. It all came to a head when members of the National Dealer Council released an open letter. It accused Stellantis leadership of reckless decision-making, price gouging, and ignoring real-time market feedback. "We told them these vehicles wouldn't move," one signatory wrote. "They told us to be quiet and push harder." The fallout reached Washington. President Trump, already fuming over job losses, ordered the United States Department of Commerce to launch a formal review into Stellantis' practices. "We don't let foreign companies gut American industries and walk away," he said. Behind closed doors, administration officials began drafting possible restrictions on future imports or tax incentives. Investors responded with fear. The moment Stellantis defended its CEO bonus packages during a shareholder call, its remaining goodwill evaporated. Confidence cratered. Analysts downgraded the stock. One hedge fund manager called the company functionally insolvent. Leadership didn't blink. They doubled down on their strategy, blaming everything from global supply chains to interest rates. The American public, however, wasn't buying it, literally or figuratively. The flames weren't just burning on Wall Street, they were scorching down on factory floors, showrooms, and homes across the Rust Belt. The damage wasn't just corporate, it was mechanical. Jeep Wrangler, America's most expensive disaster. What used to be an off-road hero now costs more than a BMW and brakes twice as fast. The Jeep Wrangler was never meant to be a luxury symbol. It was a symbol of grit, freedom, and American resilience. Yet today, it carries a price tag that feels more like an insult. Buyers walking into dealerships expecting a rugged adventure machine are instead greeted with MSRPs stretching into the $70,000 range for mid-tier trim, and that's before dealer markups, add-ons, or financing. Once upon a time, people justified the Wrangler's pricing with arguments about capability and resale value. That logic is now shattered. The used car market has reached a saturation point. Second-hand Wranglers, even those only 2 or 3 years old, are now fetching prices dangerously close to new models. And yet consumers are walking away. They are fed up. Resale value? Gone. Demand evaporating. Wranglers that once commanded loyalty are now collecting dust. Buyers are openly revolting, flooding forums, reviews, and comment sections with outrage. One user put it bluntly, "I'm not paying 75 grand for rust, road noise, and recalls." And the dealership floor tells the same story. Jeep Wranglers are piling up. They're not moving because buyers are seeing through the brand veneer and asking what they're actually getting for the money. The answer? Less than ever. What once made the Wrangler a household name has been hollowed out by bloated pricing and declining value. And they're not just expensive, they're falling apart at the seams. Built to break, the quality crisis. Jeep tried to hide. Leaking roofs, shorted batteries, death wobble. Jeep's mechanical reputation is in free fall. The romantic image of a rugged 4x4 climbing over boulders has been replaced with a more frustrating scene. Customers waiting at the service center for the 3rd time in a month. At the core of this quality collapse are issues Jeep has refused to fix. The totally integrated power module, a control hub responsible for everything from headlights to wipers, continues to fail catastrophically. Electrical shorts, malfunctioning dashboards, and spontaneous light failures have become distressingly common. Owners call it the Jeep lottery. You never know when or where it will break, only that it will. Then there's the infamous death wobble, a violent, uncontrollable shaking of the steering wheel, triggered by imperfections in the road. It has been a known issue among Wrangler owners for well over a decade, yet it persists in newer models. Jeep dealerships are overwhelmed with complaints and repair requests, while service bulletins quietly acknowledge the problem without issuing meaningful recalls. It doesn't end there. Roof leaks have become a joke among longtime owners, especially with removable tops that never seem to seal correctly after reattachment. Water intrusion is common, often damaging electronic components in the dashboard. Rust has also emerged as a fast-moving threat, with hinges, undercarriages, and even door handles showing corrosion far earlier than expected. Repair shops across the United States and Canada are seeing wait lists pile up. Owners report that Jeep parts are constantly on backorder, and service advisors are struggling to explain delays to increasingly furious customers. Hashtags like #JeepJunk and #Wrangler woes are trending on platforms where off-road enthusiasts once shared trail footage. Now they share photos of puddles on floor mats and invoices for electrical diagnostics. If Jeep were trying to quietly exit the off-road world, this is exactly how it would look. Because if you think they're still good off-road, you're in for a shock. Not rugged, not reliable, not worth it. The only thing Jeep conquers now is gas stations and service bays. The rugged reliability that once defined the brand has been replaced by bloated styling, digital gimmicks, and drivetrains that no longer perform under pressure. Jeep has downgraded its off-road hardware across multiple trims. In place of mechanical lockers and heavy-duty suspensions, buyers now find cosmetic upgrades, leather-wrapped dashboards, touchscreen packages, and stylized wheels that do little on rock or mud. Function has taken a backseat to fashion. Critics have gone so far as to call it the Instagram Wrangler, built more for posing on curbs than crawling over terrain. Then there's the fuel economy. Jeep Wranglers continue to be some of the most inefficient vehicles on the market. Drivers routinely report single-digit miles per gallon in real-world conditions. In an era where hybrids and electric vehicles dominate the conversation, Jeep seems proudly stuck in the past, offering turbocharged engines that deliver neither efficiency nor reliability. Handling has also taken a hit. On pavement, Wranglers drive more like tractors than trucks. Loose steering, noisy cabins, and bouncy rides are common complaints. Modern competitors like the Ford Bronco, Toyota 4Runner, and even crossovers from Hyundai are offering better control, comfort, and safety at far lower prices. Consumer Reports and other agencies have downgraded Jeep models across multiple categories. In some cases, the Wrangler ranks dead last in reliability, safety, or comfort. Enthusiasts who defended the Wrangler as a purpose-built vehicle now struggle to justify its price or its flaws. And that's not even considering ownership costs. Insurance premiums are skyrocketing due to theft rates and parts shortages. Maintenance bills are steep, even for minor issues. In total, owning a Wrangler today looks more like a financial burden than an off-road investment. As the Jeep identity erodes into parity, rivals are taking notes and taking customers. Because while Jeep slips, the world is watching and laughing. A global joke, how Jeep lost the world. In Europe and China, Jeep isn't just irrelevant, it's radioactive. What was once a globally respected nameplate is now being erased from markets that once saw potential in the brand. Jeep's troubles overseas began with its failure to adapt. In the European Union, Stellantis has faced enormous emissions fines tied directly to the poor fuel performance of Jeep vehicles. Wranglers and Grand Cherokees exceed carbon output thresholds, pushing the company into regulatory quicksand. Plans for hybrid and battery electric Jeeps were either delayed or outright canceled, placing the brand years behind the curve. Story in China is worse. Jeep-branded vehicles once held promise in the Chinese middle-class market, where off-road capability and American branding carried weight. That market has collapsed. Consumer demand has dried up, and Stellantis was forced to dissolve its joint venture with GAC Motor after dismal sales figures. Local factories shuttered, and dealerships were left holding inventory they could no longer move. In a stunning public rebuke, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney criticized Stellantis for what he called the destruction of labor certainty on both sides of the border. His comments came after Stellantis shut down sections of production in Ontario, gutting high-paying jobs in favor of moving operations elsewhere. Carney, who once worked in international finance, framed Jeep's decline as a warning about the dangers of disloyal globalization. Meanwhile, rival automakers are flooding the global market with better-built, cheaper alternatives. The Ford Bronco, already wildly popular in the United States, is now gaining traction in Australia and parts of Europe. Toyota continues to expand its off-road lineup with the Land Cruiser and 4Runner, both of which outperform Jeep models in reliability and value. Online, the brand image has become a punchline. Social media users from Germany to Japan mock the Wrangler's mechanical woes, calling it the only off-roader that can't survive a rainstorm. Forums once populated by Jeep fans have shifted allegiance, and influencers are jumping ship in favor of more capable, less problematic brands. Jeep's fall from grace isn't just about missed sales targets. It's about the erosion of global trust. And in North America, where the brand was born, the collapse hit hardest in the heartland. Factory towns turned into ghost towns. When Jeep's dramatic decline struck, entire communities in Michigan, Ohio, and Ontario were thrown into chaos. Once proud factory towns that had served as the backbone of American manufacturing suddenly found their lifeblood cut off. The industrial plants that had provided steady wages and community identity went silent, leaving behind deserted streets and shuttered businesses. Local diners, repair shops, and general stores that once thrived on a bustling workforce were forced to close their doors as unemployment soared and uncertainty spread like wildfire. Workers who had long depended on steady income watched as production lines halted, and their futures became as uncertain as the empty parking lots outside the factories. Canadian labor unions, representing those who had given decades of service, mobilized in response to Stellantis' drastic production cuts in Windsor. Their voices rose in protest, demanding that the company honor its commitments to the workforce that had built Jeep's legacy. Union leaders argued that the decision to slash production was not merely a cost-cutting measure, but a betrayal of the very people who had fueled the brand's success. Rallies were held at the plant gate, with workers brandishing handmade signs and chanting for justice. The anguish and sense of betrayal transcended borders, drawing attention from both sides of the American border. Across the border, President Donald Trump criticized the company's strategy in his characteristically direct manner, proclaiming that the government would no longer tolerate the callous abandonment of the working class. In a fiery public address, he declared that he would hold Stellantis accountable for the loss of American jobs, insisting that companies must put people before profits. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada countered with sharp criticism of his own, urging stricter labor protection and more resilient trade policies to shield Canadian workers from the fallout. Tensions escalated into a trans-border tug-of-war, where the fate of factory towns became a battleground for political ideology. Economic hardship spread as local governments, already strapped for cash, struggled to fund essential services in the wake of soaring unemployment and diminished tax revenues. School programs suffered, infrastructure projects stalled, and the overall quality of life deteriorated. The once thriving communities were now synonymous with desolation, a tangible reminder that when a brand like Jeep collapses, the damage extends far beyond the balance sheets. In this climate of despair, the human cost of corporate greed was unmistakable, setting the stage for an even graver crisis in the days to come. And as the workers found themselves pushed out of factories without warning, a new tragedy unfolded at the dealership level. The franchise nobody wants anymore. The collapse of Jeep's reputation rippled through the automotive distribution network, leaving dealerships in an unprecedented state of disarray. Franchise owners, once proud to carry the storied name of Jeep, now grappled with unsellable lots and overwhelming financial burden. With inventory that once symbolized rugged reliability, now burdened by high costs and plummeting demand, many dealers saw their once esteemed franchises as liabilities rather than assets. Unsold vehicles piled up, parked on overfilled lots that were part of used car storage, as even the most promotional discounts failed to lure buyers away from safer alternatives. Financial pressures mounted as the cost of maintaining these lots through heavy interest payments, operating expenses, and staffing became unbearable. Many dealership groups, once eager to expand their networks, began actively rejecting new franchise offers under the Jeep, Dodge, and Ram labels. Investors and lenders alike grew wary of a brand whose future looked as uncertain as the barren lots it left behind. In a market where every penny counted, the burden of depreciating inventory and mounting carrying costs proved to be a lethal combination. President Trump, seizing the moment to leverage his authority, announced plans for a federal investigation into what he labeled automotive monopolies. His administration vowed to scrutinize the practices that had driven down sales and left dealers with crippling losses. The investigation was framed as a fight against corporate entities that prioritized profit margins over the livelihoods of everyday Americans. Such declarations resonated with franchise owners whose mounting losses forced them to consider options once unthinkable, abandoning their long-held Jeep franchises entirely. Distress spread throughout the network, and whispers of foreclosures and forced franchise sell-offs became common conversation among dealership owners. With consumer confidence plummeting, the future of the Jeep brand looked bleaker than ever. Those who had once thrived on loyal customers now faced the harsh reality that the brand they trusted had become a costly burden, a tragic miscalculation with far-reaching consequences. As dealerships shuttered their doors one after another, it was evident that the collapse of Jeep was not merely a corporate failing, but a profound breakdown in the relationship between a beloved brand and its customers, a crisis that would soon extend even further into the market. Now, I will talk about what that crisis exactly is and how it affected Jeep, but I need you to take a moment and subscribe to our channel. You'll be helping us a lot. Thanks. Jeep ignored its loyalists, and they're furious. For generations, loyal Jeep enthusiasts had embraced the rugged spirit of the brand, rallying behind its reputation for off-road capability and affordability. These fans, from small-town mechanics to suburban adventurers, had formed a community united by their shared passion for Jeep's distinctive blend of utility and freedom. However, as Stellantis shifted its strategy toward high-margin luxury vehicles, the core values that had defined Jeep began to fade. Affordable, no-frills models that once guaranteed reliability and performance were quietly phased out, replaced by pricier iterations that demanded exorbitant sums for marginal upgrades. Longtime fans found themselves priced out of the vehicles they once cherished, with even lightly used models fetching nearly the same price as brand-new luxury offerings. Social media forums erupted with discontent, and online communities filled with impassioned debates over the loss of Jeep's authenticity. One dealer, speaking candidly, revealed, "We are receiving 30 calls every single day, with customers asking where the base model went. The answer is simple: they no longer exist." The abandonment of the brand's original identity fostered a profound sense of betrayal among the very people who had made Jeep a cultural icon. In a stark display of policy-driven loyalty, Prime Minister Mark Carney introduced a series of electric vehicle incentives in Canada that deliberately excluded Jeep imports. This maneuver, designed to protect domestic jobs and promote sustainable alternatives, further alienated Jeep's long-standing fanbase. Customers felt that their needs were being neglected in favor of corporate maneuvers that had little regard for the true spirit of the brand. The result was a palpable and growing fury, an outcry that blamed one pivotal decision, placing profit margins above the fundamental principles that had once made Jeep synonymous with freedom and adventure. Such consumer anger was compounded by dealers who lamented the loss of Jeep's accessible image, a shift that left them with an inventory of vehicles that no longer resonated with the people who had built the brand's legacy. The demise of affordable, rugged Jeep models became a symbol of corporate greed and misdirected priorities. Enthusiasts and dealers alike were united in their dismay, convinced that the journey began when Jeep chose to prioritize lavish features and striking price tags over the necessities of functionality and reliability. Stepping from this seething frustration, the narrative now shifts to reveal how corporate decisions have pitted high-paying executives against everyday workers, a battle that would soon determine the fate of the entire enterprise. Stellantis chose Wall Street over Main Street. In boardrooms hundreds of miles away from the assembly lines and dealership lots, Stellantis' executives embraced a strategy that shunned the very principles on which Jeep was built. In pursuit of higher margins and bolder quarterly reports, they realigned the brand toward premium offerings, an approach that resonated with Wall Street investors but alienated the grassroots of Main Street. Executives reveled in the initial surge of stock prices and increased profitability projections, blissfully unaware that their decision would sow the seeds of a catastrophic backlash. As production costs soared and the cost of living climbed, the disconnect between executive bonuses and the workers' reality became ever starker. Workers watched in disbelief as layoffs and factory shutdowns were justified by promises of long-term gains that never materialized. At the same time, investors celebrated fleeting reports of profit growth, even as consumer demand evaporated. This misaligned focus created an environment where the interests of a select few overshadowed those of the vast majority who depended on these jobs for survival. The consequences became painfully clear when President Donald Trump, a staunch advocate for American workers, stepped into the fray. In a forceful public address, he warned that the federal government would not tolerate companies that neglected their domestic responsibility. Trump threatened to strip Stellantis of critical federal contracts if they continued to prioritize executive compensation over maintaining American jobs. His words struck a chord with workers across the nation, adding political fire to an already volatile situation. Simultaneously, lawsuits by dealers and affected workers began to pile up, each one a testament to the growing divide between corporate ambition and the lived reality of everyday people. The financial fallout was compounded by a pervasive sense of betrayal, as longtime Jeep supporters realized that their hopes had been cast aside in favor of Wall Street's profit margin. The corporate focus on high-end luxury, exclusive features, and expensive add-ons had rendered Jeep a relic of a bygone era, a once beloved brand now mired in mismanagement. The mounting legal challenges, dealer protests, and political interventions signaled an impending reckoning. Stellantis faced a confluence of forces, from furious customers and embittered dealers to the unyielding scrutiny of a president who saw corporate neglect as an affront to national pride. The stage was set for a final confrontation, a clash between the high-flying promises of profit and the down-to-earth demands of Main Street, where the true cost of abandonment was measured in lives and livelihoods. In this final moment, the consequences of choosing Wall Street over Main Street would determine whether Jeep's storied legacy could ever be salvaged, or if it would remain a cautionary tale of corporate miscalculation. Jeep faces the guillotine, bankruptcy, or breakup. The warnings coming from inside the company are louder than ever. Rumors of bankruptcy teams being secretly consulted have spread like wildfire among industry insiders. Financial experts pore over every line of Stellantis' balance sheet, searching for cracks that might signal an imminent collapse. The once proud conglomerate, known for powering Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, now finds itself at the crossroads of survival or disintegration. President Donald Trump has made his stance unmistakably clear. No federal bailout will be granted unless all United States manufacturing plants reopen immediately. This uncompromising directive forces Stellantis to reconsider its global operations, with an emphasis on preserving American jobs. In response, whispers circulate that a drastic measure may be forthcoming: the splitting off of Jeep, Ram, and Chrysler into separate entities. Such a breakup might offer a lifeline to Jeep's battered legacy, but the disruption and financial turmoil could also obliterate the brand entirely. The pressure is mounting on every level. Investors are reeling, and even longtime supporters of Jeep are beginning to wonder if the brand can ever reclaim its once indomitable spirit. A stark reality now looms. The potential resurrection of Jeep hangs by a slender thread, but even if Jeep gets saved, can it be rebuilt in time? The uncertainty of corporate fate flows seamlessly into the challenges of rescuing the product itself, setting the stage for an even graver battle ahead. Even a savior might be too late. Reviving a brand so deeply wounded requires more than an infusion of cash. It demands a complete overhaul, a retooling of factories, a redesign of products, and a rebranding that reclaims lost trust. The journey toward recovery stretches out long and treacherous, with the possibility that even the most determined savior could find the task insurmountable. In a dramatic effort to spur domestic revival, Prime Minister Mark Carney has unveiled a series of generous incentives aimed at companies ready to reopen manufacturing facilities in Ontario. These measures are intended to spark a renaissance in North American production by rewarding those committed to rebuilding the nation's industrial backbone. Simultaneously, President Trump has issued a biting challenge to all automakers: bring back American steel or get out. His words serve not only as a mandate for accountability, but also as a rallying cry for the working class that once put its faith in American manufacturing. Even with these governmental interventions, the harsh reality is that the pathway to recovery will be long and arduous. For Jeep, whose name was once synonymous with rugged freedom, the promise of a renewed future now seems distant. A vision marred by the scars of corporate mismanagement and a legacy in tatters. Meanwhile, Jeep's rivals aren't waiting. The grim prospects of delayed revival transition us into a market where competitors have seized every opportunity to replace a fallen giant. Toyota, Honda, and Ford are wiping the floor. When Jeep's downfall became common knowledge, rival automakers recognized an opening that could not be ignored. Sales of vehicles such as the Toyota CR-V and Toyota RAV4 surged, while the Ford Bronco emerged as a strong alternative for buyers still craving rugged capability without the baggage of mismanagement. In countless showrooms, Ford dealerships took to banners proclaiming, "We're not Jeep," a bold statement that resonated with frustrated consumers. President Trump has openly lauded Ford for keeping it American, praising its unwavering commitment to quality and reliability, a stark contrast to the disorder that has engulfed Jeep. Meanwhile, Honda and Toyota have ramped up production and marketing, quickly filling the void left by Jeep's collapse. These companies have not only captured market share, but have also redefined the standards of what their vehicles should represent in the modern era, leaving Jeep's once loyal customer base disillusioned and scrambling for a viable alternative. The shift in consumer loyalty is palpable. Shoppers, now disenchanted with the inflated prices and chronic quality issues of Jeep, are flocking to brands that combine traditional rugged appeal with modern innovations. This wave of migration is underscored by aggressive advertising campaigns and strategic promotion that challenge Jeep's outdated image. Every new model released by competitors is a direct rebuttal to Jeep's missteps, a silent yet resounding statement that the market no longer tolerates mediocrity. And the political pressure is boiling over. As the auto market rapidly evolves, the relentless momentum of competing brands segues into a wider, more turbulent political landscape that promises even greater upheavals. Jeep's collapse sparked a national auto war. The dramatic fall of Jeep has leapt beyond a mere financial misfortune and into the volatile sphere of national debate. President Donald Trump has seized this moment to ignite nationalist fervor, rallying supporters with the stark declaration, "They sold us out again." His fiery words have transformed Jeep's demise into an emblem of corporate betrayal, fueling the disillusionment of everyday Americans toward a system that prizes profit over people. Across the border, Prime Minister Mark Carney has taken bold steps to redefine his nation's industrial policy. With an unwavering commitment to protect domestic labor and sharply reduce import dependence, his government is enacting measures designed to fortify Canadian workers against the fallout of global corporate mismanagement. Carney's decisive actions, set against Trump's America First stance, create a geopolitical chessboard where every move carries profound and lasting consequences for both economies. In this charged environment, consumers find themselves locked in a struggle for their own economic identity. Escalating prices, dwindling job prospects, and a pervasive sense of betrayal have forced many to re-examine the future of an industry once synonymous with freedom and rugged reliability. Jeep, once a name evoking images of off-road conquest and unyielding spirit, now stands as a cautionary emblem of failed promises and misdirected priorities. As the storm of corporate failure, political rancor, and consumer unrest intensifies, every stakeholder in the auto sector now faces an ultimate reckoning. The battle lines have been drawn, and the ripple effects of Jeep's collapse threaten to reshape not only the automotive landscape, but also the economic and political fabric of our nations. Is it possible that Jeep's disintegration is more than an isolated calamity, a solitary corporate misstep, but rather the harbinger of a deeper systemic crisis that challenges the very foundations of our industrial future? Could this downfall signal a domino effect that redefines what it means to support a national brand, leaving consumers, workers, and entire communities questioning their economic identity for generations to come? What do you think? I want to hear it from you. Let's talk in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you there.